For centuries, Egypt has stood as one of the world's most iconic civilizations, the land of pyramids, pharaohs, and hieroglyphs. But today, a heated debate rages across academic halls, social media platforms, and even TV screens. Was ancient Egypt a Black African civilization? Or is this a historical oversimplification born from modern identity politics? Welcome to Historical Stories. In this episode, we explore Afrocentrism, a cultural and intellectual movement that seeks to rewrite history through an African-centered lens, and why many Egyptians see this movement not as correction, but distortion. Many feel this story isn't empowerment, it's historical theft. Afrocentrism, or the Afrocentric perspective, emerged prominently in the 20th century, especially among African American intellectuals. For them, the pharaohs were African in skin, culture, and consciousness, ancestors of today's African diaspora. Its core aim? To reclaim Africa's place in world history, a place long undermined by European colonial narratives. They were simply Kemet, the people of the Black Land, a reference to their fertile soil, not skin color. Leading Afrocentric scholars like Cheikh Anta Diop and Molefi Keita Sani argue that ancient Egypt was not only an African civilization, but a Black civilization. But that hasn't stopped Afrocentrism from growing, especially in the African American cultural sphere. On the surface, this sounds empowering. But in Egypt? The backlash in Egypt was immediate and fierce. Historians pointed out that Cleopatra was of Macedonian Greek descent, not African, and Egyptians accused the series of cultural appropriation. To many Egyptians, it symbolized a broader trend: Western media reframing Egyptian history to suit identity politics in the West without consulting the people whose history it actually is. But they reject being boxed into any singular racial label. But geographically, it's in North Africa, a region that has always been a cultural bridge between Africa, the Mediterranean, and the Middle East. Its identity spans millennia. It cannot, and should not, be reduced to a 21st century racial narrative, whether from Europe or from the Afrocentric movement. But when justice becomes revisionism, and when one identity movement seeks to override another's legacy, we must ask, whose history are we really telling? Egypt lies in Africa, yes, but in reclaiming their stories, others must not rewrite ours. It is a living, breathing culture with its own voice, its own memory, and its own right to defend its history. Why? Because these claims, they argue, ignore the complex, multi-ethnic history of the Nile Valley and instead impose a racial narrative that fits modern political agendas. And every nation, every culture, deserves to tell its story with honesty. A civilization that grew from the banks of the Nile, shaped by unique geography, by millennia of interaction with Africa, Asia, and the Mediterranean, and above all, by a people who saw themselves as neither black nor white, but simply Egyptian. Egyptians today, historians, archaeologists, and everyday citizens, often reject Afrocentric claims that ancient Egypt was black. Ancient Egyptians didn't describe themselves as Black Africans, or white, or Arab. DNA studies of ancient mummies, such as the landmark 2017 research published in Nature Communications, show that the genetic profile of ancient Egyptians was closer to populations of the Levant and North Africa than to sub-Saharan Africans. Even in art, pharaohs are depicted with a wide range of skin tones: golden, reddish-brown, even blue or green, none of which should be taken literally as racial indicators. So, are Afrocentric claims scientifically valid? Most mainstream scholars say no. In 2023, Netflix released a docudrama about Queen Cleopatra, casting a Black actress in the lead role. This wasn't just about a TV show. Egyptians do recognize their African identity, politically, geographically, and culturally. Egypt is a nation at the crossroads: African, Mediterranean, Arab, Islamic, and uniquely Egyptian. Afrocentrism began as a quest for justice, a necessary rebalancing of historical narratives. Egypt's story deserves to be told, in all its complexity, by its own people, and in its full, unfiltered truth. As Egyptians, we take immense pride in our heritage, not just because it is ancient, but because it is ours. We understand the pain behind the Afrocentric movement, the centuries of colonial erasure and racial injustice. Egypt is not a blank canvas onto which modern identity politics can be painted. Let us build solidarity between peoples, not by appropriation or projection, but through mutual respect, evidence-based dialogue, and above all, truth. This is not about exclusion. It's about accuracy. Finally, we thank you for watching, we respect you all, and see you again soon.